You must be careful about the words you use, or the words you allow to be used in your house. Words are things. You must be careful. Careful about calling people out of their names, using racial pejoratives and sexual pejoratives and all that ignorance. Don't do that.
It's time to talk about it.
Pull up a chair and take a seat.
We're serving up recipes for life.
With Hampton University's Dr. Richard Mason and Dr. Tamara Williams.
Welcome to the Sunday Brunch.
This is Dr. Tamara Williams.
And this is Dr. Richard Mason. And welcome back to the table for another edition of Sunday Brunch with the Good Doctors.
The good doctors.
Yes. It's always a pleasure to come back to the table, to have some great conversations, talk about life and what's going on, because life has certainly been lifing.
It's been lifing. It's been lifing for everybody. And we find ourselves in circumstances that we've never been in before, in places that we've never been before. So every day we wake up, we find ourselves in circumstances we've never been before. So that's not anything new. But how we cope and deal with things can be. And so it has been definitely a lot going on. It's good to see you, bro. It's good to see you.
Yes, certainly. Good to see you. It's amazing what can happen in 1 week. So just 1 week to the next.
Listen, we don't even need a whole week for something crazy to happen. It can happen from one moment to the next. So, we said you stay ready. You don't have to get ready. So we definitely need to stay ready and stay prepared.
Listen, stay grounded, stay prayed up, because whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen, and it's gonna be. That's my philosophy. So just keep on smiling and keep on moving.
We're gonna have to keep brunching. That's all I do know.
Listen, bacon makes the world go round, and it certainly makes me smile. Ooh,
I definitely had some bacon today. I'm looking already before we even sat at the table, but I'm looking forward to some more bacon. Some more bacon. I'm gonna have to feed my feelings a little bit. Just a little bit.
It's all right. Go right ahead. But I'm going to go ahead and get myself a little plate real quick, because I see the bacon coming on out. So I'll let you go ahead and get started on what we're talking about today and introduce our guest while I go ahead and fix my plate.
You already know what I want.
I got your biscuits and your honey butter.
That's what I'm talking about. Appreciate that. I would like to say that I'm excited to have this conversation, but I'm not in a little bit of a way, because we're going to be talking about trauma today, and so there's really nothing exciting about trauma. So you don't want to really celebrate it, but what we can celebrate is finding ways to move through trauma, ways to thrive and not just survive through trauma, and ways to process and understand it, become our best selves. And so what I'm most excited about today is having this conversation is that a lot of times our listeners and even people just in the world, they don't really get to often have an opportunity to hear emotional intelligence coming from men and processing of feelings as well. So I'm especially young men. So I am excited about having our conversation today so that we can talk about how we move through things. And I want to welcome to the table, he will get a chance to tell us way more about himself, but I want to welcome to the table Nick Paxton.
Hey, how y'all doing? How y'all doing?
Doing good. Welcome to the table.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, we could not wait to have you. I'm so excited to have you at the table because I saw your topic and I thought that this is definitely a conversation that we need to have. But before we even jump into what you're writing about and what you would like people to support you in, let's talk about just who you are. So who is Nick? What is Nick up to at this very moment?
Man, I think the better question may be, what is it Nick up to, right? The first, I'm a sophomore accounting major at the illustrious Morgan State University. Now, Pirates, don't get upset. Hampton was my number one choice.
We're going to let you have that one. We're going to let you have that one.
Did you hear that? He said Hampton was his number one choice. Okay.
I will give Hampton that. It was just, when it came time to cut the check, go Bears. But other than that, there's so much that I could get into. Right now, I'm currently a teacher. work with multiple nonprofits as a treasurer, so the money. Do marketing for other people, for social media, for different things. So there's a lot I do now. Officially an author. What that's insane to even say out of my mouth. But officially an author, host a conference. I preach. So there's a good amount of stuff that I'm doing at the moment.
You are. So tell us, how did you get into, let's back up. How did you get into preaching? Because we don't, and are we sharing with we said you are a sophomore, so we know that you're under 20 or somewhere around that range. So as a young man, a young African-American man, what pulled you into ministry?
I'd say number one, my grandfather is a preacher. He's been a preacher. So I've been to church my whole life. From a baby till now, I've been in church because church wasn't an option on Sunday morning. It was you get your tail to church. You better.
That's right.
Either you get up or I'm going to get you up. And you make the first option because it's a lot less painful. But through that, I've always been known to talk sometimes a lot, in school. The teacher's like, Nick, come on. A lot of things with that. But through talking, I realized like a lot of times, I think with kids even, you see things that they get in trouble for, but it's sometimes things that they're gifted at. Like I didn't know they're talking. I just thought I did it because I just felt like doing it. But as time progressed, we hit COVID, right? 2020. We all remember COVID. We just got locked down and were shut down. And through that, I found hope in God. I found peace and a refuge there. And so I started releasing inspirational videos on Instagram and on TikTok and on YouTube. And as that continued to move on, my grandfather was like, well, you got this gift. Now it's time to work and develop it. And so it was going and taking a course while still in school, my senior year of high school, every Saturday or Friday if I had a football game. So while in the football season as well, busy, a lot happening, but making sure that I'm able to study and prepare. And I started preaching at the beginning of near the end of my football season, my senior year. And it's been nonstop since. And I love it. I think it's such an avenue to encourage people and to bring a little joy into their day, especially Black preaching. We know the foolishness that can go on, not in a bad way, but all the runs and the hoops and the hollers and the dancing.
I must say,
you do all of that?
You got a hoop.
I do a little bit. I wasn't there yet. I'm working on bringing it in a little bit.
All right.
But I see in it, it's so many young people that I realize there's so much I could do outside of it, right? But I realized that I would prefer to encourage and strengthen people as much as I can while I'm still young. I have that strength to do it.
That's all right. And it's good to see young people in ministry because we're at a time where I think the exposure to so many different things for our young people is great. The internet is certainly a blessing and a curse, but they're being exposed to so much. And having that belief in God, a higher power, they definitely need that. And so being able to ground them, in that is certainly what they need. So that's a good thing. Right. Definitely a good thing. So thank
you get into teaching
for accepting the call, because we know ministry is certainly a calling. Some people call up ministry, but that don't work out.
Other than that, if you hear that in a sermon on Instagram, YouTube, I stole that from you and taking it.
Go right ahead. All right, but I done been somewhere and I done heard some preachers. I'm like, oh yeah, you dialed up somebody.
Somebody else want that for you, but I'm gonna leave that right there.
Yes. Exactly. One of them internet sermons.
So how did you then transition into teaching? Because you said you're an accounting major. So how does teaching come into all of that?
I'll say if money wasn't a thing, I did like nice things. And when I say the nicer things in life, I mean the nicer things in life. Teaching may have been my major, right? Because like I said, I love encouraging people. I love being a role model to younger students. So even again in my senior year of high school, for Mount St. Joe, the high school I went to, there was an option to sort of kind of skip the last 2 weeks of school before graduation called the senior project. And so there were many options you had. You could build something, you can volunteer, and I took the volunteer route.
Mm-hmm.
Cousins went to a small Christian private school, and I said, I'm gonna go over there. I'm gonna help them out because the people that run it, their family, and I'm just going to go see how it goes. I'm gonna go in and see how it goes, and then being there with the students. When I tell you the joy that it is to leave high school, going to all boys private high school, to leave that environment, that and to go to school with students who are bright, have energy, have young minds who are wanting to be developed, who are growing. It's something I wish I had as a student, I'd say. And so teaching is something I love to do because, I wish that there were more young Black figures in teaching. I'll tell you my favorite and most impactful teacher that I can remember was my senior year of high school. His name was Mr. Turner. But it was a young Black male teaching trigonometry and making something that is terrible, because do unit circles exist? But just because I'm an accounting major, don't mean I like all types of numbers. There was some classes, but making something like that interesting and fun. And so seeing that young Black role model empowered me to be like, man, I want to be this to another student. I want to be able to help another student to see their self in the classroom. And so even as it encourages young Black students, male students, it also encourages the female students who may be lacking a father figure or who may be dealing with other things or may not have an older brother to be able to step in as a quote unquote. Now, I won't tell my students that because they'll take that over their head. The kids will run with it. You my older brother, so now I'm act crazy. So I can't tell you that. But to be able to be that figure and see how much of an impact it makes. I almost want to be over an accountant, but then I look at the salaries and I say, well, I'm gonna stick with the numbers. But yeah.
So you really understand that your gift is teaching. You understand, and it's coming in different formats. So yes, you're preaching and you're teaching. You're still teaching the youngies at school. So it's still coming and manifesting in a different way. And now you're writing books about things. So education does seem to be, a theme. And what you're running from is what you're running to. I'm just saying.
I think that as much as, I try to run, I'd say, I'll use this week as an example. I was supposed to teach on Tuesday, but schools are closed. I usually go on every Tuesday as an assistant gym teacher, but help out all day. But schools were closed. It was election day. We're not gonna get into that. But outside of that, I was like, well, I'm gonna stop in on Wednesday just because my class got canceled. And so I said, I'll go to school, go help out today. And my aunt was like, you must have missed those kids. And I was like, no, I don't. But then I realized, as much as I want to say I don't, I love my students. I had a kid ask me today, do you even like teaching? And I didn't give them an answer because they was just getting on my nerves all day. But I do. I love teaching. It's such an avenue to be a positive influence. And as much negative as I spread, I say, when you're saying education being gifted, if you would have told my teachers that my freshman year of high school and before, they would have looked at you like, Nick, who you say, Nicholas Paxton? I'm telling you, I won an award at my high school, and they said, it was called Most Improved Student, and I had a teacher come up, well, there was a lot to improve from, and I couldn't even be mad.
Oh, wow.
I said, well, that was kind of true. You had to say it like that.
Man, that was a gut shot. You know what I'm saying? We're at the bottom now, we here is what you're trying to say. Like, I was never at the bottom, man. I just was not applying myself.
Right. But I will say this, education, like ministry, I believe education is truly a calling, okay? Right. Because it is one of those things that can try your patience, okay? And you have to be willing to stay in the fight when it comes to education, because it's not easy teaching people, okay? And when I look at education, all right, you have to be gifted in that area, and you need to go to school to learn certain things, but your heart has to be into it as well when it comes to the whole concept of teaching and learning. So it's amazing to me, you know, as people go into education, the good teachers, I feel, are those who they've gone to school, they've learned the art of teaching, but the great ones, the great teachers are those who have the passion and who I feel who have been called to education, because those are the ones that really, in my opinion, they're able to meet students where they are in all circumstances and really do what's necessary to make sure that kids get it, you know? And so I think those are the ones that we tend to remember.
The hard work. And
Yes.
it's sad that it took you all the way up to your senior year to really say that's the one that did it. Although whenever you can get that direction is great, but literally that's the hard work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that
Showing up when you're not supposed to be there because you know people will know that you missed this week or you missed the day.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, even with you saying that, it reminds me, I went away for a conference. I don't remember if it was an accounting one or a church one. I can't remember. But my students got on me bad when I got back. Mr. Nicholas, where were you last week? Why were you gone? Why? I think I missed a few weeks in a row. You keep missing. Why aren't you here? But seeing that, you know, at the time, it was like a little bit, you know, when you first become an adult, you know, you don't like nobody expecting that. Because I'm a grown man. That's why I wasn't here. I was doing my grown man business. That's what happened.
That's what you wanted to tell them?
That's what I was thinking in my head. And what is it? One of the supervisors said, he a grown man. You can't ask him all them questions like that. But in it, you know, not having the background of a teacher, I couldn't have went to school for education. I'm still in school. But seeing how much, if you're passionate about teaching a certain subject, you'll go home. What is it? Yesterday I was at the school and I had no plans on coming back today, but a student really was struggling with an area in math. And so I said, I can avert my schedule to show up. That's really all they're asking you to do is put in time, put in effort. And when you show that you're pouring in and invested in them, they'll invest that back into you. Now, sometimes it'll be a little annoying because it's like, why are you all up on me? But you understand out of a place of they truly is love and care, which is needed. And I'll say, especially our community, because when other people aren't going to love us, we have to love ourselves and teach other young Black people how to show love. Even in their talking, I'm like, don't talk to your classmate like that. We don't talk like that. That's not how we're going to treat each other, because that's just not how we do things. We have to, if anybody's going to encourage us, it has to be us. But I'm done with that.
No, don't be done. That is great. That is a great reason to continue doing what you do. And it's obvious that you see the importance. What we did not share with everyone, but do share, is tell them where you're from, because you're talking about our communities and how people need to, you know, look out for each other. But they need to know what community you're from so that they can really relate to what you're talking about.
I think I'm in one of the best cities in America, the hands down, you know. Baltimore City. I'm sorry. Let me pronounce the T. I'm sorry. Let me be Baltimore, Maryland.
Baltimore.
There we go. Baltimore. From Baltimore, born and raised.
Yes.
Been here my whole life, and I love it. I see the need for help and need for guidance in our city. And I think that instead of complaining that we need to take our city back, I see so many times they're like, these teachers don't care about the students. It's time for us to invest in us. But yeah.
That's all right. Well, we appreciate you coming to share some of this knowledge with us down here in the 757. So definitely, you know, for being here with us. But we like Baltimore too. So
I like positivity. I like humanity. I like people willing to put it on the line for somebody other than themselves. And we're definitely fans of the little people here on this show. In education, lifelong education. And so you're just getting started, but you have an amazing start that, you know, other people have no reason to say why they can't help or volunteer or do things when you're doing 80 million things plus being a student. And I'm hoping those grades are reflective of your great journey too. Yes, indeed.
I believe they are. You know, midterms came and I realized what classes, you know, that you have to go back and pay attention to. I'd say I love my mentor though, because there was some classes I was like, man, I just can't get through this. And he just looked at me and said, it's one of those classes, you know, there's a lot of those in this accounting world, but there's just one of those classes that, you know, when you get, you're just happy you got through it.
Yes.
You keep
moving. Yes. We all have those that econ moment is what I call it, because economics.
Let me tell you right now.
Oh, that was a Damascus Road. Thank you, Lordy moment. You
I got an econ assignment due on Saturday, and every time these Saturday assignments come up, I'm sitting there all week just. I gotta go to therapy just for econ. It's crazy.
Listen. We can stop right there, because therapy is very useful and it's very helpful, and people need to understand that we don't get to where we're going without getting help. And trauma happens and things happen to everybody, and it's your responsibility to process those things and not get stuck. So, yes, indeed. I do want to talk about how you so you went from preaching to teaching to still being in accounting, but knowing that you love education. How did we get into writing a book and writing a journal?
Man, when I tell you, I'd say 2024 has been a year where I'm doing what I feel like I've been supposed to do. It started really, I'll say the book started with a clothing line, right? Doesn't make sense, but we're going to get there. It started with a clothing line that taught my name, Nicholas, literally means the people's victory. And so for a while, I just, I'll call my mother, hey, Mom, you know my name means victory, right? You know my name? That's literally, there's a song Jonathan sings, my name is victory, but I said every time, that's literally me. That's what my name is. But starting a Christian clothing line called Victory Apparel led me to, okay, I felt content with that. I said, that's good. That's my goal for 2024 is building up this brand. Moving forward, then I felt the need and burden to build a conference, right? Because as a Christian male, as somebody who's been in church my whole life, I realized that a lot of Christians are very victorious in church, right? They're Sunday, they're shouting, dancing, leaping for joy, and victorious there. But then, like you said, mental health is at an all-time low. In church, committing suicide at unprecedented rates. And so how do we deal with and balance the scale, right? And so starting a conference that's inaugural one is next year, where I will have a licensed therapist there teaching sessions about Jesus and therapy, those things. And so I started the conference trying to help young people have victory in everything they do in life. And then as I sat back and said, 2024 is almost over, I'm done. I said that this journal has been done. I'll say that. It's 2+ years in the making, right? It's something that this book is 2+ years in the making that I've written it out. I had everything together and I just stopped. And so I contacted my publisher and was like, I think I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get this out because I've had conversations and I said, I can no longer sit on this because it's needed for my generation. It's needed for me. As I went and was writing, as I was doing overlooks of it and going back through editing, I said, I needed to see this. I needed to read this. I needed to write this out because it's helping me to go back and walk through my healing. But yeah.
So tell us what the book is about, though. You talked about the process of writing. It's been there 2 years, but tell us what's in the book. What is it about?
So the book title is Victory Over Trauma, right? And
sticking with that name thing, I see victory.
You see it? I see it. You taught the marketing.
I see. You got a marketing team working with you.
What is it? I'm sort of kind of in my marketing team, but we love that. Don't go for marketing at first, but do a little bit of both. But I'd say with that book title, I said, let's dive into it. Because the first thing I had to do personally when healing was dive into my trauma, which is something that many people don't want to do, but this book is about dealing with the hurt, dealing with a lot of people. If you even if you're on social media, talk about something healing their inner child. But there's a lot of things that are deep down that we don't talk about, that we don't want to discuss. And this book is meant to guide you through unpacking and into opening up, into really getting into your trauma so that you can begin your healing journey.
Okay. And so, go into a little more about this. In terms of what would one see when they open the book?
When you open the book, the first thing, matter of fact, when you look at the cover of the book, the first thing you see, I think, shows you all of what you need to know about the book. Because a lot of, especially dealing with Black families, a lot of trauma is generational trauma, right? My parents did this. My parents may have abused me, but because they did it to me, I'm going to do it to you too. And it's because I love you. And so many times we see it as, or we're saying we're doing it out of love, but sometimes you're passing down trauma. So on the front cover, what you see is a chain being broken. And so I believe this book will allow you to break the chain that has been something that's been passed down generation after generation. And when you open up the book, it gives you an introduction into the real side of my life, right? And this, I made sure that it wasn't just, because a lot of times you read Christian books and it feels like, oh my goodness, I get it, I get all of that, but what's your story? And so that's what my book gets into. When you first start off, it gets into my story, it gets into my story with trauma, my battles with it, and my realization of it.
Okay, so you're using yourself as a testimony while helping others walk through their journey with trauma. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, this is a journal. So as we look at the book itself, it gives the users an opportunity to write their story, I guess, to walk through certain exercises and stuff like that as well. Yes,
it's exercises. It's going to be 28 days, right? 4 weeks. Walking this thing out. You're starting off finding out the hurt. You're going to continue on throughout the process of the book. The process of healing. It talks about it as you go on day by day of how to handle these things. And it's also me giving a little bit of a backdrop onto how I had to deal with it. But really, as a Christian author, showing how God helps you to deal with it as well.
Yeah, that is awesome. Because sometimes what I find is people don't recognize what trauma is, and so some of the experiences, you were talking about. My parents went through this, I went through this, and they just don't realize that some of the things that you went through is abuse and it's traumatizing. How do you deal with this? And so when you start talking about these things and really bringing these things up, because sometimes people will have, do certain things and have certain behaviors and don't realize why they are behaving a certain way. And it's like certain things have been passed down from generation to generation, and you just go through them and don't even realize why and what's going on.
Right. And I think it's a going through the motions thing, because a lot of our life, we don't spend time to reflect. I'll say that the beauty of living on a college campus by yourself for the first time. Freshman year, I'll be honest with you, I didn't go out a lot, because I was still a little holding on to the fact that a little traumatized. I ain't go to Hampton. I was like, man, I didn't get home by the sea. But
it was real sad. I, had him have a nice little walkthrough, took him to the game, had the students trying to really, show him around. I think a few of them was even flirting with him a little bit.
We ain't gotta get into that because But anyway. But truly, in that time of my freshman year, I'll say as much as, you hear roommate horror stories,
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, I got one, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna leave it there. We're not getting too many details. Seeing my roommate, I saw the effect that trauma can have when it's not dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
Extent that to try to deal with trauma by ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
other hurt and banned and bruised and cut people
Mm-hmm.
trying to help you, but all they're doing is bleeding on you.
Mm-hmm.
Their trauma into your responses.
Mm-hmm.
It even starts to affect relationships and friendships in college, because so many times we're just going around and connecting off of our trauma. And
trauma bonding.
Right.
I forgot about that. But truly, we're trauma bonding, and sometimes you go to school, and I ain't saying it because I believe that kids sometimes do need beatings. I had a good amount, and they helped me. But sometimes we go to school, and we were like, "Man, my mama whooped me tonight." Because we were all cutting up in class yesterday, so we get to school with a little more humble the next day. My mama got me tonight. And then the next student goes, "You think your mama was bad? Let me tell you what my mama did," and the connections that y'all have in elementary. But as you grow up and develop, those things are a lot deeper than just, I got to beat you. Whether the trauma and abuse came from family, whether for some people, regrettably, it came from the church, came from a classmate at school, social media, because like you said, social media is a blessing and a curse. But a lot of times on social media, what we're traumatized by is we're seeing everybody's highs and we see all the good things in my life. But I'm telling you, if I get into something really bad, the first thing I'm not going to do is post on social media saying my life is doing terrible. Matter of fact, when it gets bad, I'm going to post a picture on social media of me smiling ear to ear to make everybody think everything's well. But we see the putting on a mask sometimes even. It's in response to our trauma because we try to so many quick fixes. Well, for me, I was somebody who laughed a lot when I was hurting. I smiled. And when I went to school every day, they was like, "Nick, you smile all day. All you do is smile. I wish I was that happy." And I was like, if you really knew, you want to smile.
Thank God we don't look like what we've been through.
Look,
that's right. Amen.
So many times I tell my testimony, what you're going to read in the book, I tell the people at school, and they're like, "You went through that? Are you sure that's the same person?" To get into little statistics about school, even my high school year, my GPA ended with a 2.37, I believe, if I got that right, and that was weighted. And we don't want to get too much into it's a lot of logistics, but as I told people, like, because after high school, I ended up graduating with a 3.5 GPA and was my school's most improved student. Not saying
that's why that teacher told you had a long way to go.
That's exactly what he said. Exactly. I knew why, but I think that will help a lot of students, though. I know everybody isn't like me, but the mindset I adapted while I'm really thinking, I said, well, this first year was terrible. Let me go look at the awards my high school gives out to see what I can potentially earn, because I know I'm not getting valedictorian. I can tell you that right now. I said, what can I do? And I saw something on that said most improved student. And from that day, I put my head down and said, I'm going to work to overcome everything that is stopping me. Trauma, whether it's something a family member said, I'm going to deal with it so that I'm going to handle the real issue. A lot of times where we're seeing unsuccess in school, that's not the real issue. The real issue is school. We're not really, it's that trauma of somebody telling you as a kid, a teacher saying, you're never going to be nothing. Regrettably, there's teachers who, like you said, that need to be called to education, because some teachers just did it because they just didn't.
They knew they would always have a job.
Look, they said, I need, if you look, it's a teacher shortage, even in Baltimore. And so, teacher, because I need something to do. I need some money. There's teachers, regrettably, who have told students, you're not going to live to see 21. You're not going to live to see I'm going to see you in McDonald's one day, right? And there's nothing wrong with working at McDonald's, but you see in these circumstances that there's so many things that students I think that's why I went to an HBCU. I even wrote a whole article on HBCUs. But you have teachers who have been through similar experiences. So now you're able to open up and able to see and walk through getting your healing and be able to realize that that's not the reason that I'm not doing well isn't because I'm not smart. It's because I was told I wasn't smart. So I let my thought pattern about it start to affect my actions. I think I'm not smart. Why would I study for a test? Because I already know no matter how much I study, I'm going to fail anyway. So we see how that affects the education sphere, how that affects, again, like I mentioned, relationships, how that affects everything in life when just some sentences, if I'm able to, I want to talk really quickly about a journal prompt from one of the days. Opens, thank you. But it says, what lies have you believed about yourself because of abuse, and to write them down. Then write the truth of what God says about them, and how does this truth challenge the lies you've carried. And I think that is such a powerful prompt. Hold
on. Let's go back. Let's hear that one more time. Don't rush through that. Let's go on back and hear that one more time.
It says, what lies have you believed about yourself because of abuse? Write them down. Then write the truth of what God says about you. How does his truth, matter of fact, challenge the lies you've carried?
Now that right there is a word. That's
only in week 1. That's all I'm saying. That's in week 1. So could you imagine the rest of, but it's really to what we were just talking about. Those lies that you hear, maybe from a parent, from a sibling, from a grandparent, because sometimes they really don't mean any harm. It's that, like I mentioned earlier, it's that bleeding on you. Thing that they have about themselves that they don't like, that now they push on you, that now makes you begin to share with others and act in a certain way. There's quotes go around, but really the way a lot of times people say, new year, new me. We're about to hit the 2 years. But if it's a new year and you have the same mindset, it is the same you.
Right.
But so when you're able to change your mind, when you're able to then go look at what God's truth is about you, because for many of us, even growing up, you know, I grew up in a single parent household. I was raised by my mama from till first grade. Then my dad came into my life a little bit, but I was raised by my mama. And you sometimes begin to have thoughts in your head, why did my dad leave? Like, especially since I'm the youngest child. So me and my brother have the same mother and father. And so since I'm the youngest, I'm like, well, did I cause that? Was I the reason why they separated not too long after I was born? And those things, no matter how much my mother tried to affirm me that wasn't the reason why, you know, as a kid, sometimes those things start to sink in. And my dad sometimes would say, yeah, you were the reason why. And so in hearing that, it makes you see those things. But again, it's the beauty of reading God's word, I'd say, that it gives you the truth of who you are. Because it's the same way you would do if your car started acting up. If your car starts messing up, the first thing you do, you're going to take it to a dealership because they know the manual. They know the car front and back. Personally, if there's something wrong that I'm dealing with, that there's a hurt, I'm going to go back to the manufacturer of me. I didn't create.
You better say so.
I feel like, I got to order. I feel like I'm
all right.
Go ahead and preach. You know what I'm saying? We got a few more moments. We got a few more moments at the table. We already prayed over the food, so we don't want to get to it.
But truly, if you're having an issue, you have to go back to the creator of you.
That's right.
So I think that's what even that day dives into. And it's going to be that throughout the journal. Throughout the journal, what we do is walk through God's truth about you, about me. Because
I'm so happy for you. I'm having one of these moments. And, you know, I remember when your parents separated and you were a youngin' when it happened. And let me just say, because I know it was not you. Okay. So let's just go ahead and be clear about that right there. Auntie says it was not you. It was not. It was not you. It was not you. We don't get to pick our circumstances that we find ourselves in sometimes. We don't always get to pick our family, but we do get to pick our friends.
That's right.
We do get to pick our friends. And so I am so, I'm godly happy that you've been able to do this necessary work, which is why I wanted to have you talk with us at Sunday Brunch, because there's a lot of young people who think they have to wait until they're much older to try to work through their trauma. They think they have to wait, or somebody else has waited so long, so they think that's what they have to do. But I'm so happy that you could be a young person and still mentor to other people to say, yes, some people make mistakes. We don't always get born into the best circumstances all the time. We can't control what other people do, but we can control how we respond.
But the other thing is, you look at even the situation with your father telling you, yes, you were the reason for the separation and divorce or whatever. You know, that's him bleeding his own hurt and his own issues onto you. And that's one of the things that we have to look at. And it sounds like that's what that passage in that journal is asking folks to look at, is what have you allowed others to pour onto you? You know what I mean? And into you. And getting to a place where we don't have to accept what people do or call us. You know, years ago, I remember watching the Antoine Fisher story, the Antoine Fisher movie, and he had been through so much. And I was having a discussion with one of my good colleagues and all or whatever, and he said, it's a prime example that you have to put in your mind, it's not about what you call me. It's what I answer to. You understand what I'm saying? And that's it. And sometimes people will constantly call you and call you and call you until they call you by the name or by what you want to be known as. You don't answer them. Don't answer them at all. It's almost like when you were kids growing up, your mama told you don't open the door for nobody. I don't care who knocking on their door. You don't open that door, you know, or you had a special code. I'm going to ring the phone once and call back, and then you answer the phone, you know. So,
and it's more about saying, you're not talking to me. You're not talking to me. So I don't know who you addressing, but it's not me that you are addressing. I'm going to sit over here until you get that right. Call me by my God-given name.
That's it. Yeah. And that's the thing I think with social media, I was going to say young folks, but we have some older folks as well that seem to get caught up in some of the social media things as well. And like you said, there are things that people will put out there that they're presenting this happy life. And so sometimes we tend to see that's all that they're happy and they're dealing with, and they really have some other stuff going on with them. So being able to be truthful. Right. Being truthful with self is very important, you know, because when you come and you sit on this couch in therapy, we're going to deal with the me that you paint for me. You know, that picture you put here on therapy, that's what we're going to deal with. And if you're telling me, hey, this is picture A and this is who I am and this is what I'm dealing with or whatever, you know, as your therapist, we're going to talk from picture A. But if you go home and you're living in picture B, all of the things that we've talked about in picture A sitting in this office is not going to work. It's not going to work at all. So we have to be able to be transparent with ourselves, because to thy own self be true. You know who you are. And you have, if you really want the help that you need, that you deserve, you have to be able to put it out there. And the fact that you talk about go back to the Creator, because guess what? He knows what's already there.
Now, I started preaching. I done passed you.
Pass me the mic.
Yeah, he knows. He knows. And you say the author and the finisher of your faith. He knows. And so it's important that we always remind people to be careful who they listen to as well. Everybody can't speak life into you. There's some people who are just waiting for your downfall, praying for your downfall. And they're going to always see the challenge in you instead of seeing the person who's really that victor or that victory in you. They're gonna be wishing for your losses instead of willing your wins. So I am circle check always.
Listen, because some of those folks are actually behind your downfall and you just don't know it.
First ones in line. First ones in line.
But y'all talk about
circle check.
back and like author and finisher of our faith, even a little bit, if we look at Jesus and the trauma he went through, because a lot of times we just hear black preacher. One Friday he died. I'm not hooping tonight, big.
Go get a little hooping.
Don't worry about he died. He died earthbound, trembled like a drunken man. But if we see the trauma of Jesus, you have to think in the garden he prayed till he was sweating blood. That's because he was so stressed out about what's about to happen. Like the very people I loved, I came here for, the people that I'm trying to set up for them. I came here to do things for them. They're saying, kill me. People who were last week saying, Hosanna, Hosanna, he that comes save us, woohoo. Now say, oh yeah, go put him on the cross and kill him. And that's somebody I don't know, as adults, I've even realized this now, and I'm still 19. But as adults, there's people that you've clothed, you've fed, you've mentored, that they turn around and betray you for 25 hours.
Man, you gonna make me run around this.
Well, he gonna run around in circles. You don't even know who you're talking to. I promise you, it happens to us more often than people would even know. The people who give the most are the ones who get the least and get treated the worst by the people who you were sacrificing yourself for.
Exactly.
You trying to hop over oceans and they won't even skip over a puddle for you.
Look, you do so much for them. And it's so many times that we see in the people it's like all I wanted to do was help you. That's the whole reason why. Because if I'm being honest, we're going to be transparent tonight. I didn't really need you. I'm going to be not in a cocky way, not in a mean, but I didn't need this friendship or relationship. But I saw it was best that you came to me asking for questions. And now I found out I'm in scandals. I'm in because of my alignment with you. And we see that we can never expect unhealthy people to have healthy actions. Right?
I really think your major could have been psychology, Nick.
I was just talking earlier, and as much as I'm going to get a master in some form of divinity, I was talking to my aunt today, who is also studying to be a psychology major, get it for her bachelor's. But I was talking to her, I said, I may have to master in psychology. As I was writing this, I said, I think I got to. I'm going to be in school my whole life. That's all I'm saying, Aunt Sam. That's all.
We're lifelong learners. Lifelong learners over here.
That's all right. That's all right. But there's certainly, as they say, a calling on your life. I can just see it, and where you're headed with a lot of things. There are young people who really need to hear this message from you, and how to overcome things, and how to deal with things, because a lot of our young people are truly hurting. And we have some adults that are hurting as well. But I think our young people, just simply because where they are from a cognitive perspective and really not fully understanding how to manage these things. And for some of them that have been living in these traumatic situations for a long time, they are really functioning from a place of the amygdala. That's that survival mode. They're not necessarily functioning from that prefrontal cortex, that rational thinking process or whatever that takes you through a lot of stuff, and I always explain it to people, it's so they'll understand when I'm talking about that amygdala moment. That amygdala takes over when you're in situations of crisis and things of that nature, just as if you have been chased by a dog before, so it's like all of a sudden that fight, you know what I'm saying? You just take off. So that's that amygdala moment. And guess what? When people are in trauma and they've been dealing with this for a while, guess what? That amygdala is always firing. That amygdala is always taking over. So imagine feeling like you've been chased by a dog all of your life.
All the time. Always on DC. Someone's always trying to attack you. That's what a trauma response is. And you start responding to everybody. And that's what happens when you start bleeding on people who didn't even cut you. Because that's when that happens, because that's how you show up in the world. You've been traumatized and you're doing the best you can. And so we always want to make room for people to know that our best can still be better when we get the help that's necessary. And everybody at this table has had some therapy. and advocates for therapy. I have a therapist right now. What are you talking about? I believe that you have to keep your mind right so that your life can follow.
All right. And even at my age, I had a therapist since I was in first grade. I've been the same person.
That's why you're so introspective. Yes. You go on and you get them handcuffs. I'm gonna get the straight jacket. Don't worry. And I'm gonna be out before you. I'm gonna be out before you.
Right. But the thing that you talk about, you talk about having faith, you know, but then also therapy. And that's one of the things in terms of being a Christian therapist. You know, you're able to really look at how does your life line up with the Word of God. And that's sometimes where people of faith tend to have challenges with their life. And that's where some of the areas of depression and anxiety and stuff like that comes into play, because guess what? You know what the word has said for you, and it's easy to line these things up, but your flesh is telling you to do something else. And so it's a battle that you're dealing with, that internal struggle. Do I go here? Do I do this? Do I move in with this person? What do I do? You know, young folks, do I have sex? Do I not have sex? You know, and so guess what?
Why you wait to the end of the show?
But all of that stuff just lines up, you know, and it's like you're dealing with those things. And so having a therapist to be able to walk you through those things from a faith perspective, you know, and not only that, but to be able to pray for you and pray with you, you know, in the session. Okay, looking at the scriptures that line up with the things that you're dealing with, you know, that's important. That truly is important.
Jesus and therapy.
Mm-hmm. You need both. It's a both and, not an either or. You can't go to church and not have a therapist. You can't have a therapist and not go to church. It's a both and.
There it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Listen, we have run out of time, Nick, but I can tell you that we will absolutely have to have you back on the show as you continue to impact the world, not just your community, but your world and surrounding areas. So we are excited about that.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
So, real quick, when the book is available, where can they get this book from?
You can purchase your book as early as today for pre-order at nicholaspaxton.com.
All right, nicholaspaxton.com. Okay. All right, we're definitely going to do that, and we're going to certainly promote that because we want people to do just that, is to purchase that book, because we are truly all about growth and healing, okay? And good food, okay? So
say that.
Yeah. Yes, but thank you so much, Nicholas, for joining us, you know, right here at the table, and thank you to our listeners. We'll be right back here next week at the table on WHOV Smooth 88.1.
The essence of HU.
Keep your form.
Someday we'll be able to measure the power of words. I think they are things. I think they get on the walls. They get in your wallpaper. They get in your rugs, in your upholstery, in your clothes, and finally into you.
Thank you for joining us at the table.
Tune in next Sunday at 1 p.m. for more delicious topical recipes for life on the Sunday Brunch.
On Smooth 88.1 WHOV.